Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Curt Sassak, president of Winetasters Choice. I have something special today I think you're going to like. It's still an educational video, as all of our videos are, but it's a little bit different. So you may know Francis Ford Coppola from his movies. You may know Francis Ford Coppola from his wines. But what you may not know is he has a line of spirits that are influenced by and dedicated to notable women throughout history. Okay? These women may not be as well known as some of the more prominent historical women figures throughout history. However, these women made a significant contribution to the world, history, and society. And so he's paying homage to them through his spirits line. And today we have Miss Kathleen Murphy, who's the head of that spirits line, who not only teaches us about those spirits, but also gives us a little bit of a history lesson. So it's a little bit different, and I think you're going to enjoy it. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kathleen. So
Ada Lovelace, yes, she is the mother of coding. She was the first woman, she was the first person to do early computer algorithms. It's classically styled. Everything that we do is to be classically styled. It's made with 10 different botanicals. So we have a juniper forward gin that has a real floral component to it. It's very pretty, delicate. It's like, I've never had a gin before where I'd sip it. This is the sipping gin.
Well, Ada Lovelace was an absolutely extraordinary woman. I feel that the Countess of Lovelace is certainly one of the great women of our history. Some people know and celebrate this remarkable woman. Others don't know of the big role she had. She was the daughter of the Countess Wentworth, her mother, who had an affair with Lord Byron, who was her father. And Lord Byron was quite a figure of his time, and the mother was on guard against this daughter showing any of her father's attributes, and so she was carefully schooled away from the arts, from poetry, from literature, and focused much more on science. And so as a result, she made an incredible contribution and to modern times, because she was later married to the Count of Lovelace and became the Countess of Lovelace. And with that position and wealth, she sponsored Charles Babbage, who had invented what was called the differential engine, which was like the first albeit mechanical computer. It was an analytic engine. It could do computation. And Ada Lovelace, as the sort of sponsor of Babbage, also her notebooks to him on the subject really are evidence that she created programming and she created the algorithm. So as such, Ada Lovelace is the author or the originator of the modern computer, and really, I think, credited as such.
What sacrifice for Poland can we make that our sons and grandsons have not already made?
Are you suggesting that I can succeed while the Polish legions have failed?
Perhaps you have been made beautiful, that Poland might be made free. You are a woman. Napoleon is, after all, only a man.
So the Countess Waleska, she was a Polish woman, and therefore we made a potato vodka. The way that many countries started their alcohol production is they took whatever starch they were growing in their backyard and they would convert it into an alcohol. So the Poles, they had a lot of potatoes, whereas the Russians had a lot of grain, hence why we have potato vodka from Poland and usually grain-based vodka coming from Russia. So who was the Countess Waleska? The Countess Waleska, I call her one of the first super spies. She was like the first James Bond. Napoleon met her, and Napoleon took quite a liking to our Miss Waleska. And she was actually in the end forced by the Polish government to get a divorce from her husband so that she could then go be the mistress of Napoleon. And it was very much of a stage for her to be able to get information and find out what was going on. In the end, it did turn out to be quite a love story. She and Napoleon did fall in love. And even when he was eventually exiled, she would go visit him in exile. Do you know how many pounds of potatoes it takes to make one bottle? 10. That's why only 3% of the vodkas in the world are made with potatoes. Here we go. Next up is Dorothy Arzner. This is our 3-year-old rye whiskey. This Arzner, who was she? She was a woman that she made a movie appropriately named Manhattan Cocktail. But she was a woman that did the first movie with sound. She also discovered people like Lucille Ball, Katharine Hepburn. But the coolest thing about her and what makes her so very near and dear to Francis's heart is that when he went to UCLA, she was his teacher. The story goes that, one day he was on campus and he was sitting on a curb and he was just kind of down and out. And Miss Arzner came up to him and was chatting with him, and she's like, "What's up?" And he says, I just don't know if I have what it takes to be in film. And she looks at him and basically said, I've been here for quite some time. I've met a lot of people, and I can tell when they have it or they don't have it, and you have it. And so he really gives her a lot of credit for his success, for his belief in himself to go forward with his career. And then we have Hypatia. So who was Hypatia? Hypatia was a philosopher in the 4th century in what is today modern day Egypt. And she had people coming from all over to listen to her speak. And the reason why she was famous during her time and infamous during her time is that she really went against what was happening culturally. She was telling people to think for themselves. She was, it was during a period where the Christianity was really taking a hold and they wanted to have control. And she was telling people, actually it says it here on the label, I'll read her quote: "Reserve your right to think, for even to think wrongly is better than not to think at all." So at her teachings, she really gave people information for them to then make their own decisions about what they wanted to believe. And unfortunately, that didn't really sit well with the Christians at the time. And Hypatia did suffer a pretty sad ending. Story goes, and it's documented, that one day while she was teaching, that a mob of angry Christians came into her classroom and pulled her out of her classroom, drug her through the streets, took her into a church, stripped her down naked, and then beat her to death. Not the best Christians, but, and then they burned all of her work. So most of her work isn't around anymore.
Wow.
We made a Mediterranean style. So she's kind of like, from modern day Egypt. So it's a little bit more of like a Mediterranean styled Ruby Amaro. If there's any fans of like Campari out there, this would be, it's in the world of Campari. It's less sweet than Campari. It's probably a little bit more bitter, and it's very delicious.